Today we're adding the hydroelectric power plant to the Lego City. Last episode we already did quite a bit of planning for it, and now the time has come. We're jumping right into it, beginning with the pipes that are laid out from the very start. And here's how it will work. Water will flow down through the pipes from this little building that's installed up top, where initially the water is directed to underground from a lake that's further away. That means we of course won't have a visible lake up there, just like in our reference model. The water will then come out of that sort of box, shoot down the pipes, turn around the corner here at the bottom, and then you can already see the outline I prepared. That's where the actual power plant will be built. More on that in just a moment. As for the pipes, I of course had to stabilize them along the length using a Technic axle. That done, we can now focus on the interior of the power plant. The pipes, after turning around the corner, will continue inside the building. I've however changed the color from sand green to dark bluish gray simply because I had more bricks in that color to build the shape of the turbines. Now you can really see how the water rushes down, gets channeled inside, spins through the turbines, then flows out again through these light bluish gray outlet parts. From there it continues as the stream we built last time, flowing through the landscape. For the roof, I kept the building technique pretty simple this time. It's a basic structure built with studs, and then I just layered slopes on top. It does take a lot of parts, but it's sturdy, looks good, and since it's placed that far in the back, I figured I don't need to go all out with every single roof design. That completes the exterior of the building. Up next, something I already hinted at last time, we need to smooth out the slope a bit and clean up the rough edges, but only in certain spots. For instance, I made sure to get rid of the sharp edges at the top area, unlike the middle section, which I left quite rough. I've only cleaned up the most exposed areas, where there won't be any trees or where the slope is clearly visible, and after having smoothed out all the exposed spots, it was time to cover the rest with a forest. Now, here's the thing. I of course can't build all the trees on my own. I could, but it would take ages. So I decided to launch another building community event while the exhibition was opened, and in just 3 hours we managed to build over 150 trees. A recurring request from the comments was to use light green trees instead of dark green ones for the slope. And you're absolutely right, the other ones just look too dark, especially in the videos. The dark green almost comes across as black. That's why all the trees prepared during the community event are in light green. The forest is being built extra densely, that way those rough parts are simply hidden underneath the trees. Otherwise I would have spent whole days just filling that in with plates, and believe me, there's nothing fun about that at all. Now to the part I was probably most excited about. I've always wanted to build something like this, and now I finally have the perfect reason, and it won't even interfere with the landscape. What I'm talking about is of course a power line. I really got to have fun with all different kinds of bars, clips, all kinds of untypical, unusual Lego parts. One note right away, I plan to swap out the light grey connectors for dark bluish grey ones. I just didn't have them on hand, and I can't always wait 3 weeks or longer for Lego part orders to arrive. This here is the base structure, and the next part is the actual power line support, the part that will then hold up the cables. I didn't want it to be too large. There are setups out there with 3 or 4 stacked rows of line holders on top of each other, but for my build, I kept things a bit simpler and ended it here at the top. I think the overall size works well. The goal was for it to blend nicely with the landscape, and I really think it does. I built 3 of these towers in total, and they fit in well behind the power plant, visually really reinforcing what the whole structure is supposed to represent: water rushing down the pipes, turning the turbines in the plant, and then the electricity being exported. Following the power line, of course, we need a starting point. So I've already marked out a section below where the substation will go. The first thing that needs to be added there is of course a transformer. For that I used jumper plates in the middle to create smaller gaps and shape the side view of the transformer. Then, using modified bricks, I replicated the exact same structure on the opposite side as well. We finish it off with these coils. I think they are supposed to be insulators. I'm sure there's an electrician out there who can correct me. Anyways, these are our 2 transformers. They then lead to this larger framework connecting the hydroelectric power plant to the electricity grid of our Lego City, which apparently now fully runs on green energy. I also added a few finishing touches with the plants and greenery. There's still plenty of left to do, of course, but I just wanted to get started with the vegetation here. Now about this gap I haven't mentioned yet. That's where the farmhouse used to be, but here's the thing. You can see right now I placed it back in and it completely blocks the view of the beautiful power plant. So we're going to rearrange this corner. The fence will be moved and the farmhouse will be rotated so it stands lengthwise instead of widthwise out. That way it takes up less visual space in that corner. I then planned out how exactly the fence is going to continue and most importantly, how I'm exactly going to connect all the different buildings with each other. For example, back there where we still have this giant gap right in front of the half-open train tunnel, I decided to continue that field path to the hydroelectric power plant so you can now actually reach it. And then I decided to fill up the rest of this gap simply with vegetation, especially these brighter green trees to add another type of green, and it's also a different type of tree we so far haven't added in that corner yet. Once again, I used this trick of building smaller trees towards the back, so we have this forced perspective effect where it looks like the landscape has more depth than it actually has. I, however, decided not to overload this area with vegetation, especially on the ground, because of future storytelling I'm going to add. Of course, there are still quite a few gaps left I definitely need to fill up, for example, right there on top of the hill. If you have any ideas what could fit up there, just leave them down in the comment section. Then the other thing I worked on is I connected these two silos, which now were pushed even further away, to the farm via this small path leading around the corner. And although of course now the overall view of this section is complete, we still have so much space left for storytelling, and especially back there, I mean, it's filled up. This was the most important part, but I mean, look at this beautiful space we now have remaining for storytelling, motorization, lighting things up, just highlighting little different stories, even in the very back of the city where you can't see it right away, but this is what makes the city interesting in the end, to be able to find and discover certain details even though you're already standing in front of the model for maybe 10 or 20 minutes, so it doesn't get boring. This is, by the way, also exactly what we're currently working on at the airport. We're currently lighting up every single spot you can see in the middle of the landing strip, and especially right here with the lead-in lights and so on. This is gonna be completely crazy, of course, with hundreds of LEDs, but this is in the end what's important for every single part of the Lego city in order to come alive and really feel interesting, to have it lit up at night as well. By the way, this is what it currently looks like underneath the airport as we're connecting all the different LEDs. And of course, we're not only lighting things up in the existing city, but since we now really are out of space, it's time for the next city expansion, and this is what I'm also working on building progress-wise, so definitely quite a lot of videos planned for the next time. So with that being said, that's it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again in the next one.